Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. It's time for us to check out a board from ASRock for this new AM5 platform from AMD, the X670E Taichi. Now, for the purposes of this video, ASRock said to us that they wanted us to review the board, so as far as ASRock's concerned, this video is a review of their new motherboard. See what I did there? With these motherboard videos, they're not actually reviews, they're just overviews so we can get a look at everything that's on the board and what physically comes in the box with the brand new motherboard. So let's do a review, not review, of this board from ASRock. Let's jump in. Alright ladies and gents, here it is, the ASRock X670E Taichi. Let's get the motherboard out of the box so we can take a little bit of a closer look at everything that comes with this brand new board from ASRock. Alright, the black box, what's underneath the left flap? We've got this ASRock postcard. Now, over the years, I've joked about sending this to people. Let me know if you want me to actually send this to you in the comments section down below. Next up, we've got this AM5 CPU installation procedure guide. This is actually kind of helpful in case you've never installed one of these CPUs before, and it gives you a little step-by-step on how to do this. Next up is the user manual for the X670 Taichi, and it has all the things that a regular user manual would have. Alright, what's underneath the right flap? First up, we've got the antenna for the built-in Wi-Fi 6E. There's also this completely overkill M.2 heatsink for the board, so you can cool an M.2 drive with a fan, I suppose. Pretty crazy stuff. There's also a set of SATA or SATA cables for your 2.5-inch SSDs or your spinning Rust drives. There's also a bunch of M.2 screws. It seems that ASRock might have missed the memo about just using plastic clips like everyone else, but let's not give them too much of a hard time here. There's also this. Now, I actually find these quite helpful, and this is a nice addition. It's some rear USB 2.0 ports for the USB 2.0 headers on the board, and this can be very, very helpful with certain things. There's also a set of Velcro straps to help you cable manage your system. It's nice that these are included, and you usually find this with premium boards like this ASRock board. Last but not least, for the keyboard enthusiasts out there, there is a single Taichi keycap. This is actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is a cool little addition. More motherboard manufacturers should actually put these in the box. Alright, let's take a look at the X670E Taichi from ASRock and have a look at some of the things that are on this board. Speaking of, the first thing we've got is the front panel audio header. There's a PWM fan header. There's a 4-pin 12-volt analog RGB header, a 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB header, 2 USB 2.0 headers for things like liquid coolers and RGB controllers. There's a USB 3.2 front panel connector. There's a Clee CMOS header. There's a postcode LED screen, 2 more PWM fan headers. There's a reset button, a power button, and then the front panel connector for all your lights and all your switches to let you know your system is up and running. There are 8 SATA ports for your 2.5-inch SSDs or your spinning Rust drives. There's a USB Type-C front panel connector. There's another USB 3.2 front panel header. There's a PWM fan connector, the 24-pin power connector to send juice to your brand new X670E Taichi. There's 2 more 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB headers, and along the top edge of the board, there's 3 more PWM fan headers for like your liquid coolers or your CPU fans and that kind of stuff. And if we jump to the other side of the board, there's 2 8-pin EPS power connectors to send juice to your brand new AM5 CPU. For PCIe slots on the X670E Taichi, there are 2. Now they're both by 16 size, however, the top slot is a by 16 Gen 5 slot and the bottom slot is a by 16 by 8 slot, so it's not fully wired up for by 16. As far as the VRM layout, it's a little bit overkill here. It features a 24+2+1 phase digital VRM setup with 105 amp power stages. Now most of the I/O cover here is a heatsink for the VRM. There's actually a fan underneath the top of that to help the additional cooling that is required for this ridiculous VRM setup. As for cooler mounting, and as with most AM5 boards, it supports most AM4 coolers that don't come with their own backplate. That's right, the backplate is permanently attached to these boards, and you can see that it's got that AM4 style cooler mounting. But let's open the AM5 socket up so you can have a bit of a close look if you've never seen it before. The AM5 socket is actually LGA 1718 with 1718 contact pins in the socket itself. If we flip the board over, you can see it's got a backplate over most of the board. This is actually to help with heat dissipation. It's not just a cosmetic thing. And as mentioned, it has that permanently attached backplate on the back of the CPU socket. As for RAM, the board supports up to 128 gigs of DDR5 memory, up to 6600 mega transfers overclocked with either XMP or AMD Expo. But let's take the heat sinks off this board so we can take a look at this really odd and bizarre M.2 layout that may or may not make sense to you out there. So the story goes that the M.2 slot on the left is a PCIe Gen 5x4 slot. The rest are PCIe Gen 4x4 M.2 slots. What is most confusing to me is the M.2 slot, which is away from the rest of the other M.2 slots, is actually the Gen 4 slot. Wouldn't it make sense to put the Gen 5 slot away for heat and thermals? Anyway, for re-IO, we've got a clear CMOS button, we've got a BIOS flashback button, antenna connectors for the built-in Wi-Fi 6E, an HDMI port, there's also 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, a bunch of USB Type-A, a pretty nerfed audio interface, which we'll come back to in a moment. There's also two USB 4.0 Type-C ports, which is quite interesting. There's also an integrated I/O shield as well. Alright, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this overview slash review slash not review of the brand new X670E Taichi. And as you can see from everything that we showed in this video, this thing is pretty beefy. There are a couple things that confuse me. The first thing is, I don't know if they got the memo from the rest of the motherboard manufacturers with all these new boards, but why are there M.2 screws on a board like this, right? It doesn't make sense. Every other company now has those little either spring-loaded clips or just plastic clips to hold the drives in. Why do I need to be a pleb and use a screwdriver to install M.2s, right? So that's a part of a review, I guess. Oh, and another thing, why isn't there a full audio interface on this thing like a lot of the Gigabyte boards? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like Gigabyte and ASRock met up, had some drinks, and were like, you know what? Let's just not do full audio interfaces anymore because no one cares. Well, there are quite a lot of people that care, so bring it back. Don't be lazy or stingy. Give us what we want. See, that was kind of a review too, right? Yeah. Another thing that confuses me is why on earth is there a massive heatsink for an M.2 drive with a huge fan on it? It's completely overkill and unnecessary. Kind of cool. That's kind of a review too, right? Yeah. But the biggest reviewy thing about this not review is the price if you're interested in this board. Now this is where it gets quite interesting because in the USA, the United States of America, the place that I just returned from, you can buy this board for $499 US, but if you're in the land of the jumping kangaroos and the koalas dropping down from the trees, you're looking at spending around, wait for it, get ready to burn your wallet and throw it in the bin and make it catch on fire because this board's going for 999 Aussie dollars at the time of filming. How is it that even with inflation and taxes and just everything different, even with exchange rates, that if you look on paper, we are getting absolutely screwed in Australia. It is a very interesting board that is completely over-engineered just so ASRock can say, hey, we've got all of the numbers, but 999 Australian dollars, I'm going to say that's too much for all of the numbers. So I hope you guys enjoyed our review, not review, overview of the X670E Taichi from ASRock. And guys, make sure you get yourself subscribed by clicking that subscribe button that's down there, because YouTube's broken, right? And they keep unsubbing and they keep saying, oh, you know, like, this is not a problem on the platform. It definitely is. It has been for years, and we're getting smashed by it at the moment. Anyways, you like the music, I do it. Click the join button. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your kind of not really jet-lagged boy who just returned from America. Nick, with Gear Seekers, you pick. We seek, and day one, off the plane, and I'm already back riding for you guys. It's because I love you. You guys are amazing. Thanks so very much for watching, and I will see you very soon with some more techie content.